Hey folks, what's happening, Roland? Well, hey, today is Friday, and it's Thanksgiving. In fact, yesterday was Thanksgiving. Today is Friday, Friday after Thanksgiving. A lot of different things have happened this week. Starting off with the fishing. Uh, I'm just getting my boat cleaned up. What do you think of this, Kelly Green? I put this rhino wrap in there. Look at this thing; it's so cool. It cleans up so good. It looks so perfect. It really complements the beautiful O'Reilly wrap that we have here, and the boat really cleans up good. With a good compound like I'm using it, it's a big deal. But there's a lot of neat things about this boat that I really like. Number one, it's a shallow draft boat and it goes through the weeds better than any boat I've ever had. And so the other thing it does, it keeps shiners really good. I got my big shiner operation where I throw a cast net, and I have oxygen tanks like we have here, and I have these special air stones, high pressure air stones that cost a lot of money. That's like $100 deal. Anyway, this oxygen supplies oxygen to the tank, and this is actually a tranquilizer called quinaldine, and it's really potent. Just like right now, just that whole live well is 30 something gallons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's enough drops right there to tranquilize those fish and keep them from hurting themselves. The other thing I do, of course, I put all this salt compound in there to help the slime coat, and that helps. But okay, this week has been great fishing. What happened is, this is the aftermath. This is Thanksgiving week. It's the aftermath of all the big storms we had earlier this month. And here's some of the lures that I'm using. There's moving water. I've been dwelling on that. A couple days we had 130 bass one day. We had 87 bass another day. We had all sorts of big fish. We haven't had that many trophy bass because we're kind of fishing a lot of lures right now. And one of the best ways to catch them, in fact, we did catch one 8-pound bass this way, and that is with a big Carolina rig. Now I'm using a big saltwater series, the old Salty series favorite rod, and I have a 20-pound test fluorocarbon leader with a 50-pound braid, and that's a 1-ounce weight. Now I'm throwing it out in the current and dragging that big worm along, and that's been a real producer of big fish. Now when I do a Carolina rig, how I catch them, and we're catching them almost every cast, is we'll make a cast and we're careful to drag the lure real slow. And the slower you drag it, you're dragging it along, and the current's kind of moving that tail. The slower, and the more you pause, sometimes we pause and talk to each other, that's when the bigger fish would bite. So a real slow retrieve was the key in the heavy current for, say, that big worm. Okay, that's one thing. The fun way of catching them, however, the funnest way that ever was, is catching them on this topwater plug. Now, I love visual action. Visual action on bass are just fantastic. And the Devil's Horse is a good deal, but I found this little Spro Pop 80 is also a good deal. And I don't have to throw it on the 20-pound fluorocarbon, or I don't throw it on 20-pound monofilament either. I'm throwing it on, in this case, 50-pound braid. Now, some of the big fish have torn the hooks out, and the hooks, I have to replace the hook. But I've caught some beautiful bass, a lot of them in the 4 and 5-pound class. Now, we traditionally don't catch the 8 and 10-pound bass in the moving water, but we do catch some 5s and 6 and occasionally an 8-pound bass. And one day we had 12 bass over 5 pounds. So that's the kind of days we're having right now in the moving water. So I don't know how much longer the moving water is going to last, but we're fishing like half the day in the moving water. Then the other half the day, I'll go in the headwaters lake and I'll fish shiners in some of the deep holes, and that's where we've caught some of the big trophies. Now, speaking of one other lure, in the moving water, it's always good to either use a chatterbait, and I have white chatterbaits right here. I had a white chatterbait right here, and I'm using that half-ounce white chatterbait with, in this case, a Zaco trailer, and that's a good killer deal. The other deal is just a spinnerbait, like the Roland Martin Big Bass spinnerbait. Just throwing it out. You don't catch a whole lot of fish on that, but some of the bigger fish you'll catch on a spinnerbait. Okay. Now, when I go to headwaters in the afternoon, I'll throw the net, put the shiners in the tank, get about 10 dozen shiners, and then I'll go to my lure, my shiner fishing deal. And a lot of times I'll just use say a 30-pound line on a float if the water's kind of open. And I'll either do that with a free line. I'll take the float off just to do a free line out in the open places, or I'll use the float in the open places. However, there's a lot of thick stuff. There's a lot of hyacinths and bulrushes and stuff, and I got to go to a bigger reel. And also, I know I use the Favorite reels all the time, but Favorite doesn't make a clicker reel, and I think they're going to come out with a clicker reel, but Bass Pro Shop has a clicker reel. And this, what the clicker reel does, the clicker reel allows me to put this in the rod holder, and I can put this rod in the rod holder like this with the clicker on, and if the fish hits it, I know I got a strike. I can be doing other things, and I can hear that clicker go. So that's really, really a big deal for having a clicker reel. Okay, you might notice my brace on my leg. That's the other thing I did this week. I get back, I went to the doctor. My knee had been bothering me. You know, I've lost some weight, and I went from about 200 and something pounds down to about 185. But the doctor said I got some arthritis in my knees, and so it's getting sore. And he recommended me losing another 10 pounds. And so I'm trying my goal weight to around 170, 175. So yesterday, guess what? I ate a very small amount of Thanksgiving dinner, and I did not gain a single pound. That's a real accomplishment. And I'm going to try to do that for Christmas as well, because at the first of the year, because of my knee, I'm going to have to start thinking about, losing some weight. He said the less I weigh, the easier it's going to be on my knee and getting around. I like to get around. I stand up in the boat all day. I fish hard all day, and I turkey hunt. And speaking of turkey hunting, let me take you inside for a second. I want to show you something about turkey hunting. This is turkey season. Well, it's not turkey season yet in some places, but the main thing it's turkey buying season. I mean, you buy the turkey calls because it's Christmas coming up, and it's a perfect time to order a turkey call. And let me just tell you about my turkey call. My turkey calls are exquisite. They're all based off the old Neil Cost box call. This is thousands of dollars worth of call. This is a Neil Cost original, and he is the champion of all callers. And I knew with Neil. Neil helped me build calls, and I can now build a call like this one. This is a call that I make. I'm telling you what, I can duplicate 100% the sound of Neil Cost's call. And I sell them. Okay, now let me just tell you a little bit about the process. Look at this big mill. I get this big giant Bridgeport mill, and I get it. I turn it on. I do all these things. I route out these hunks of wood. Anyway, I put them all in there, and I put the wood in there, and I run the table back and forth. I take my micrometers, and I check all the widths of the cut, and it's very, very careful I do that. Okay, that's the first thing I do. Okay, the second thing I do, I go back in my wood shop and just show you the wood shop for a second. That's a big complicated deal. Now I'm talking about a whole 20 or 30 minutes to cut this blank out. Then I come back here for another 20 or 30 minutes. This is just one call now I'm making. Okay, I come back to the wood shop, and look what I got back here. I got a big jigsaw, and I cut all the wood portions out. All these portions in here I have to cut away from the blank. Okay, then I come back to the sanding table, and I have to sand everything. I have to sand everything down, and I mean, it's like a real process. Now, you might wonder how you get the tone. You get the tone 3 or 4 different ways. The thickness of this wall determines how high. The thicker the wall, the higher the tone. So if I have I start off with a thick wall and it's a high tone, and then I sand it down. That's one way. The other way to get the tone down to the right level is to change these paddles around. I got all these different paddles. I make them out of acacia wood. I make them out of walnut. These are all woods that I've personally harvested in Missouri and here in my backyard, the acacia. And this one happens to be a butternut from Missouri that I got from Johnny Morris's properties, and an acacia wood that I got from my backyard. And this is an exquisite sounding call. And that's only halfway finished. Now that it's tuned, I now have to varnish it. Okay, that's a big process. So now I got about 2 hours tied up in this call, not quite, because I'm making several at a time. But this is a long process. Making a turkey call is not easy, and it takes a tuned ear. It takes someone like myself that has shot hundreds and hundreds of turkeys to know the right sound. But I do have this Neil Cost call to actually figure out. I mean, I tell you, my calls are exquisite. I mean, and then when I finally get it all to the point, I now take urethane of different types, and I now urethane the call, and look, I inscribe it. I put all these inscriptions on there, and I talk all about where the wood came from. I talk about my association with Neil Cost. I talk about the boat paddles in general, and I talk about, a little bit about how to use it. Well, anyway, that's all in the inscription part of the call. Now, Christmas is coming up, and the only way to get these calls is online with my wife, and I don't know if you can read that thing at the bottom, but right here at the bottom, it says judym at fishingwithrolandmartin.com. judym at fishingwithrolandmartin.com. Okay, that is the website that you can get a hold of my wife with and order one of these exquisite turkey calls. Anyway, folks, I hope that you can get yourself a nice turkey call. $200. Hey, I'll make you one. I'll put your personal signature in it and inscribe it the best way, and I'll tune it to my own specifications, and I'll guarantee you, you'll kill the turkey this spring. That's a good deal. Anyway, that's what's happening in my world. Getting ready for a great year, getting ready to get some more fish over at Headwaters. I'm going back over next week, and the fish are biting. Everything's alive and well. I'm alive and well, and I feel like $1 million, even though my knees are killing me a little bit. I'm going to lose some weight. And so I hope I've taught you a few things and showed you a few things about the good fishing at Headwaters and something about a turkey call. If you're interested in turkey hunting, I got the call for you. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.